Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to have the opportunity to appear before you at the CPAC and address the highly respected participants of the conference. 50 years have passed since the inaugural CPAC, a pivotal moment that laid the foundation for our ongoing struggle to uphold traditional values. Yet recent and anticipated global developments underscore the imperative to further fortify our reports in safeguarding our centuries-old traditions and national identity. Today, the world order is experiencing profound shifts. The evolving international landscape demands a coordinated response. Through collaborative action, we can actively contribute to fostering positive developments in defense of our shared values. Therefore, I would like to thank you for organizing today's conference, which offers us a valuable platform to discuss our common perspectives. Homeland, language, and faith. These are the three main pillars that have been forming the national identity of Georgia since the 4th century, when Georgia declared Christianity as its state religion. Historically, our small but freedom-loving and proud country had to exist at the crossroads of empires. For centuries, Georgians fought and sacrificed themselves to protect their homeland, their cherished land. For generations, Georgians have steadfastly preserved their language. In 1978, our parents' generation courageously rallied to defend the Georgian language when the Soviet government threatened to revoke its status as a state language. Through the unwavering resolve of the people, the Soviet government was compelled to backtrack. We Georgians had to fight for centuries to protect our faith and religion, Christianity. Our history has taught us that any occupation of a country is temporary if the conqueror fails to destroy the identity of the people. Therefore, all conquerors had as their first task an attack on the religion of the Georgian people. Last of all, this was attempted by the Soviet Bolsheviks, who destroyed churches and forbade believers to pray. However, Georgia won all battles, fought for faith, and was able to protect and preserve Christianity. Current challenges of our country are similar to those that Georgia faced for centuries. The most interesting thing is that they are faced by the whole world today, which pose risks to both the smallest and the largest countries and nations. The so-called liberals are presently putting at risk the identity of countries and nations around the world. Europe and the United States face such risks most of all, where the so-called liberal ideology has the most widespread roots. Uncontrolled migration poses the greatest threat to the national identity of European countries. If the processes continue at the current pace, the local population in many European countries will very soon be a minority. The so-called liberals fight against Christianity with particular enthusiasm. The only difference between the so-called liberals and the Bolsheviks is that the latter used sledgehammer as their main weapon in the fight against religion, while the liberals fight against Christianity with propaganda, which, under the conditions of total control of the media, has much stronger power than the sledgehammer. Today, the Georgian Orthodox Church is a prime target of their attack in Georgia. A couple of days ago, the Georgian so-called liberals even tried to change the concept of national identity of Georgia and replace the words homeland, language, religion with the words homeland, language, and unity. They just removed the religion from the identity trinity of our nation. According to the concept of so-called liberals, not only the country and the nation, even an individual should not have any solid identity. There should not be any moral limits in a person's personal life. This propaganda has disturbing consequences in both Europe and the United States, as sociological studies surveys confirm. About 20% of the 18 to 25-year-old population declares itself as LGBT, both in the United States and the majority of the European countries nowadays. This indicator is 3 times less among people aged between 26 and 32, which means that propaganda has tripled the number of LGBTI people in just 7 years. According to the position of so-called liberals, a person should not have a fixed gender identity and should choose his or her own gender at any stage of life. Even a child should have the right to choose and change a gender. For the so-called liberals, it is unacceptable to use terms like woman and man or mother and father. A few decades ago, no one could have imagined that we would have to seriously discuss such issues in the civilized world. However, the fact is that today, not only serious discussions are held on these topics, but everyone who expresses the opposite position becomes an object of intimidation, just as the Bolsheviks intimidated intellectuals and clergy in the past. In general, the so-called liberals who use freedom as a cover-up are the most intolerant of human rights, especially freedom of speech and expression. In fact, for a so-called liberal, such values as freedom and tolerance are completely unfamiliar. This approach extends to the liberalization campaign on drug policy, actively advocated by the so-called liberals, also in Georgia. The promotion of drugs aims to strip individuals of their critical thinking and values, reducing them to mere subjects devoid of moral compass. The so-called liberals also fight against such an important pillar of the country's identity as state sovereignty. If the processes went in a direction in which they are still going, state sovereignty will soon be even formally declared to be the same unacceptable value as the national and the religious identity of the country is declared nowadays. Georgia has successfully managed to protect both its national and religious identity and traditional values. However, we also face the most difficult challenges. The so-called liberals are actively trying to spread their ideology in Georgian society and undermine the foundations of the state and society. In response to these challenges, we in the Parliament of Georgia initiated a draft of constitutional amendments aimed at protecting family values and the interests of minors. The draft law prohibits the legalization of same-sex civil partnership, the adoption of a minor by a same-sex or polygamous couple, changing a person's sex, entering any other gender than male and female in the identity document, as well as popularization of the same-sex, family or intimate relationships, incest, adoption of a child by a same-sex couple, and promotion of gender reassignment. We hold great hope that the aforementioned legislative changes will successfully oppose the so-called liberal ideology and make a significant contribution to the protection of family values and minors. Thank you. Hungary's firm attitude in terms of protecting the national interests of the country and its people are an example for everyone. The Hungarian authorities, personally the Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, stand firm in guarding the Hungarian national and religious identity and traditional values in Hungary. Despite the most difficult challenges, you did not allow the uncontrolled entry of migrants into Hungary, thus preserving the country's strong national identity. You firmly stand on the guard of Christianity and Christian values in Hungary. You firmly oppose the so-called liberal propaganda so as not to allow children and young people to be harmed and their moral values shaken. You firmly protect the state sovereignty in Hungary, which is a necessary precondition for the protection and promotion of the country's national interests. Hungary and its government, Prime Minister Viktor Orban in particular, are role models for everyone who values the word homeland and patriotism. Therefore, it is a special honor for me to be your guest today and to have the opportunity to discuss our common values together with you. Accession to the European Union stands as the paramount foreign policy objective for Georgia and its people. I'm confident that in the near future, Georgia will attain full membership in the European family, and together we should make substantial contributions to fortifying the European Union and advancing a Europe founded on steadfast values. May God grant us strength and guidance to pursue this crucial endeavor. Thank you very much.